Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Ready for Rome webinar. I'm very happy to welcome you here. My name is Shelley Ruel. I am the community manager for ItaliaPass, and I'm joined this morning by my colleague Sofia Bragaglia, who is our ItaliaPass Italy Experience Specialist. And we're going to be taking you through some information this morning. Between the both of us, we have lots of years of experience in Italy. I've lived in Rome for 25 years, and Sofia is originally from Italy. So we're very happy to be here to help you learn a little bit about traveling in Rome and also answer your questions at the end of this webinar. So before we get started, just very quickly, I wanted to go over what is ItaliaPass, you may be wondering. So most of you are here probably because you purchased train tickets with Italia Rail, which is one of our partner brands. It's actually a family of brands, and we've been working with travelers to Italy since 1987, millions of travelers. And our CEO wanted to find a way to bring all of our brands together and really help all of our customers have the best trip to Italy ever. So we created ItaliaPass, which is a benefits membership for people who are traveling to Italy. You can purchase it for $99 is the Viva when you're purchasing your rail ticket, or Primo, which is a higher version of the pass with more benefits. But there's also a free community, and that's the community that I manage. So as we go through the presentation today, we'll be telling you a little bit more about the ItaliaPass in case that's something that would make sense for your travels. And that gives you some context about what the brand is. But you are always welcome to stop over to the ItaliaPass community for free. And I am there and can answer any of your questions about travel in Italy. So what we're going to cover today is just about 30 minutes of some general information to help you have a good trip to Rome and feel at home once you arrive. We're going to talk about how to get into the city from the airport because it's not right in the city. We'll talk about a lounge we have available at the main train station. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to navigate public transport in the city and also how to navigate tourist traps, avoiding them, and a little bit about eating out in restaurants, what might be a little bit different depending on the local culture. And Sophia's going to tell you all about how to get some complimentary access to some tours and $100 off of an Italia Tours experience. I'll wrap up with a couple of my favorite local tips, and then we will open it up to a live Q&A, and that will be through the chat functionality. So on the icon on the bottom of your screen, you should find an icon that says Q&A. I believe it's under More if you click the three dots, and you can type in questions at any time throughout this presentation, and we will get to those at the very end. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Sophia, and she will tell you about how to get into the city from the airport, which is where most of you will be arriving.
Thank you, Shelley. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So yeah, we can get right into it. So now you've landed at FCO Airport. That's the main airport in Rome. It's the international one. If you land here, you'll have a few options to get to the center of Rome. As you see on the slide, they're all indicated in the terminal, so it's very easy to navigate. Starting from the trains, that's your first option. You'll want to, depending on where you're trying to get into the city, you'll have two types of trains that you can take. The first one is called Leonardo Express, and it's a direct nonstop train to Roma Termini. That's the main train station in Rome. It's usually the most popular option just because it's the heart of the city. But there is another type of train, which is, it doesn't have a fancy name, but it's just a regional train that goes to smaller stations within the city. And those stations would be Ostiense and Trastevere. So depending on where you're trying to get to in the city, I would say Termini is usually the best option also because it's the best connected, but you might want to consider the other ones as well. If you're staying right in Trastevere, that might be a good option for you. Both trains, regardless, are considered regional trains. There's a slight difference in price. The Leonardo Express is around $17 on Italia Rail, whereas the other one, since it's a more generic train, is only $10. We generally get a lot of questions on whether or not you should book these type of tickets in advance. I would recommend doing so just because right now we're in high season, and that means that both FCO and these train stations get very, very busy. So the servers can get a bit overwhelmed, or the queues can get very long once you're trying to get a ticket at the airport directly. So just in case, I would make sure you already have your tickets once you arrive in Rome. Just make sure to calculate the time well because especially Leonardo Express tickets are time specific. There's only a 90-minute window that you'll have to board the train after your booking time. So yeah, just make sure to calculate that time and you might ask, okay, what would that look like? My personal recommendation would be booking again, Leonardo Express or any train out of FCO at least an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours after your scheduled landing time. And definitely no train tickets out of Roma Termini, the main train station in Rome, within 3 hours of your arrival. So if you're trying to get to another city, let's say Florence or Naples, definitely no tickets to that city within 3 hours of arrival. Why? Because, in case of any delays, really, we always hope that everything goes perfectly smooth and that everything is seamless, but sometimes at the airport you might encounter delays, luggage issues, passport issues. Uh, Usually nothing major, but little things that can add up and cause a delay. So you don't want to stress if you have train tickets, it's just best to keep that window. So that's pretty much it for trains. As you see here, we also have taxis. You can take them right outside the terminal. They have a fixed rate of 55 euros, so they're a pretty handy solution. Or there's shuttle buses, or of course, you can book a private transfer with us. We have dedicated drivers that can take you anywhere within Rome if you're trying to get to your accommodation or again to the train station. Anywhere that's within the city walls, we can take you. And it's very easy to access. You can find it on our Italia Tours website, or if you have more questions, if you're not sure on how it works, you can just reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Now we have, should I rent a car? This is a question that comes up quite a bit. I would say there's no universal answer, but I will try to give you some tips to help you decide. I would say a good rule is if you know you're going to be exploring some of the more remote areas of Italy, let's say, for example, the uh, Tuscan countryside or the Amalfi Coast, then in these cases, I would say renting a car is actually a great option just because the public transport options in these areas may be more limited. There may be fewer rides available. So having your own car can be a great help to navigate, especially, hidden castles in the middle of nowhere. Um, in that case, of course, having a car, great option. However, if you don't plan to do some, exploring of uncharted areas and you just plan on sticking to the main cities, especially, let's say, Florence, Rome, Milan, again, major hubs. In this case, I would not recommend renting a car simply because the best way to navigate in between these cities is by train. There's a high-speed train network that goes all around. And once you're actually in the cities, there's fairly strict car traffic rules that you would have to abide by and that even Italian locals struggle with. So you might need a permit to enter certain areas or finding parking is often tricky. So again, I would say that's not the recommendable option. It's still up to you. It's doable. It's just it can cause additional stress. So I would just keep that in mind. But regardless, if you do decide to rent a car, you can do so on our platform Italia Drive. And as an Italia Pass member, you would get a $35 discount. So if you plan on renting one, definitely make sure to check that out. Next up, we have our lounge. This is another perk of being a member with Italia Pass. It's access to our Italia Pass lounge. That's our lounge located in Roma Termini station. That's the station I mentioned before, the main one in Rome. And it's just, I would say, a great spot to hang out if you have some extra time, let's say before boarding a train, or if you're waiting for your hotel check-in time. You can just come visit and relax in the lounge. We have free Wi-Fi, espresso, refreshments. We offer free luggage storage if you have any bags that you need to store for half a day or a few hours, again, depending on what you're waiting for. As long as you drop them off and pick them up during opening hours, we'll be there to welcome you. The only thing that we ask is that you book your visit beforehand so that our host will know that you're coming and we will be ready to welcome you. And now I'll hand it over to Shelley for some information on public transport within the city.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So here we are. We've arrived in Rome. How do we get around? Rome is an extremely walkable city, so you'll do a lot of walking, but you may want to take public transport sometimes if you have mobility issues or if you want to get somewhere and not be walking in under the hot sun. In any case, if you want to take public transport, the company is called ATAC, and there are three main types of transport, mostly buses, two subway lines, A and B, and they only cross at one point Termini station, so that's very easy to navigate, and a couple of streetcar trams, one that is downtown by Piazza Venezia, number 8, so you may use that as well. All of the public transport uses one type of ticket, so you don't need to worry about different zones or things like that. The tickets cost €1.50 and they are for 100 minutes, unlimited rides on all forms of public transport. So it's pretty easy. The only exception to that is that you only get one ride on the subway within that 100-minute period for that ticket. So, what that means is you can ride the subway up to the 100 minutes. You wouldn't need to, but you have all that time at your disposal, meaning you can change stations, you can transfer at Termini. The thing is that once you exit the station, that means that you can no longer enter on that same ticket. However, if you still have minutes left on your ticket, you are free to use those minutes on the buses and the trams because you still have that time left. So just one metro ride, unlimited rides on everything else up to 100 minutes. So how do we get a ticket? The easiest way to do it is the tap and go system. That's pretty common on a lot of forms of public transport. So at the subway, you're going to take any of your contactless payment methods. So if you have a debit or credit card with a contactless chip, or if you use like Apple Pay on your phone, you're just going to tap that onto the reader in front of the turnstile and go right through. The difference is that on buses, so on the buses in Rome, you don't have any contact with the driver. The driver does not sell tickets. The driver does not take tickets. You're just going to get on the bus. And if it's your first form of public transport within that 100 minutes, then that's going to be where you tap. You're going to tap in on one of the readers on the bus. There's usually one in the front and one in the back. And then that's your ticket. So what that means is in the subway, you won't find ticket inspectors because you have to go through the turnstile. However, on the buses, it's more like an honor system since no one checks tickets when you get on. Sometimes inspectors get on the buses and they'll just randomly ask passengers to show their ticket. If that happens to you, all you have to do is show your payment method. Now, one thing to keep note of here is that you cannot use the same payment card for multiple tickets. So what that means is that if you're going to use the tap and go system, every person in your party needs to have their own payment method. And a lot of times people have asked me, well, what do I do about my kids? My kids don't have credit cards. Well, no, they don't have credit cards, but you're going to have to use a card for them if this is the system that you want. So if you have multiple payment methods, that's how you would do it. However, if not, they do have paper tickets available. Those are called biglietti, or one is a biglietto. And those are available at automatic vending machines in the metro stations. They are available at tabaccherie, which are tobacconists. You can find those shops all throughout Rome. They're easy to identify because above the door there will be a little sign. It's usually black and white with just simply a T on it. Or at newsstands. Newsstands are spread all throughout the city, and that's where you can buy actual physical it's like a chip ticket. It's a paper ticket, but you insert it into the reader and then it stamps it with the time that you boarded and then it spits it back out and you just hold on to it. And the validation of that ticket only have to do that when you get on the first form of public transport. You don't have to stick it in the reader every single time you get on and off buses. There's no exit. You don't need to insert your ticket to exit the system. Just one time, it stamps it, and you're good to go for 100 minutes. Last but not least, on public transport, I wanted to point out Bus 64, which is a very handy route for you as a visitor to our city. It goes from the main train station, Termini, all the way across the historic center over to the Vatican. So it's going to stop at a lot of your main tourist sites going through the historic center. While it is a really handy option for visitors, it's also a target for pickpockets in the high season, especially when the bus gets really crowded. Now, I don't want to worry you. I've lived in Rome for 25 years, and knock on wood, I've never once gotten pickpocketed, not even in the beginning when I was brand new. And you can avoid it as well because it's easy, because pickpockets go for the easy targets. Those are tourists who look distracted, who have their bags open, who are not paying attention, who look like they just not paying attention. It's very easy for them to target a person like that. You are going to look like you belong there. You're going to look like you know what you're doing. And by that I mean, if you have a purse, maybe wear it across your body and have your hand on it when you're in a crowd. If you have a wallet, don't put it in your back pocket. Maybe keep that in your front pocket with your hand on it. And these kind of measures when you're in big crowds. You don't have to walk around the city paranoid, but just be aware as you would in any large metropolitan area. Be aware of your belongings. Don't go around with a lot of cash. And you will be just fine. You will be just fine. But watch out on this bus in particular if it gets crowded. Watch out in areas with lots of tourists. So anytime you're in a big crowd, because they take advantage of when people are squeezed together, they can bump and jostle, and it makes it easier for you not to feel if somebody's trying to pickpocket you. But honestly, don't make that a cause for concern, because Rome is a very safe city. Petty crime is a problem here at the same level as it would be any other large city. So don't let that worry you. Next, let's talk about the delicious food you're going to eat when you come here and how to avoid some of the more common tourist traps. So we'll start with restaurants. So you see, I've written there lunch around 1 p.m., dinner around 8 p.m. The reason I did that was because we do tend to eat possibly a little bit later than you're used to here in Italy. If this is your first time in Rome, we usually will start lunch at restaurants between 1 and 1:30 and dinner between 8 and 8:30 as a start time, typically. Does that mean you won't be able to eat outside those times? No, absolutely not. There are restaurants open all day long, but the locals will eat at these times. And so restaurants that will be for local people may not have their kitchens open before that. So just be aware of that. Check. I wrote the check, which in Italian, if you want to practice your Italian, is called il conto. I wrote check because typically your Italian wait staff will not bring your check unless you ask for it specifically. And the reason for that is cultural. They want to make sure that you feel welcome and that you can spend as much time with your loved ones at the table as you would like, and you don't feel rushed. It's a cultural courtesy. A lot of times people have said to me, why are they so slow? They're not bringing my check. Well, it's because you haven't asked for it, because they don't want you to feel rushed. So they're trying to be courteous. So if your check isn't coming, simply ask for it and they'll bring it right away. Tipping, that's something we get a lot of questions about, very different than the United States. In the restaurants, tipping is not customary. It's not a cultural practice. The wait staff makes a full salary, so there is no need to work for tips. If you've had really good service and you want to show courtesy, you could leave maybe €1 per person. It's absolutely not expected. Many of my local friends don't tip at restaurants. So don't get tricked into tipping by some wait staff in a touristy restaurant if you do end up in one that tries to make you feel like you have to leave a 20% tip or something like that. It's not the local custom. Same goes for taxis. You can round up to the next euro if you're paying in cash, just to make it easy on the driver not to make change. However, taxis accept card payments, but you don't need to tip. So those are the main ones where you're going to run into tipping and you don't need to worry about. So what are a couple of more common tourist traps? And by tourist trap, I mean something that's geared towards tourists and not towards locals. So when it comes to restaurants, if you see pictures on your menu, or if you see someone out front trying to usher people inside, that's a clear tip off that that is for tourists and not for locals. And the reason I tell you that is because, are you going to get a horrible meal? Probably not. Most Italian food is, even for tourist-oriented places, is definitely passable. But is it going to be what the locals would eat? No, probably not. And so I would suggest that you avoid places like that if you want to have a really local experience. And then with the gelato, you're going to try our delicious gelato, especially in the summer, really refreshing. So watch out for places that have the tubs of gelato that look like this photo, where it's really like piling up over the top. That is a trick that some of the gelataio who are, trying to make it look really showy for visitors, but typically if it's a very like artisanal gelato, it's not going to go above the top of the tub. They whip a lot of air into it in these types to make it look more impressive. And if it has overly bright colors, then you know they're using artificial coloring, which an artisanal gelato would not have. So those are a couple of tips to avoid, but you can easily avoid that because there's lots of really authentic gelato places around. So that in terms of eating, now I want to pass it back to Sophia to tell you more about how you can have a really authentic Roman meal while you're visiting.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, next up we have one of our latest member benefits from Italia Pass, which is Italia Dine. The idea behind this experience is to get fellow travelers around the dinner table for a Roman family-style feast, which is hosted by a passionate local who, of course, will explain everything about the history of the food that you will be eating. Italy, and especially Rome, has a huge food tradition. Of course, Italian food. Italians love their food, myself included. So yeah, if you have any questions about that tradition or again, the dinner in and of itself, our hosts are lovely. So I definitely recommend checking it out. The reviews so far have been great. We're adding more and more seats each week. And it is completely free for Prima holders. The experience can be booked even if you are not a member with us. It's usually, I believe, $49 on italiatours.com. But again, if you are a member with us, I 300% cannot recommend this enough. Just make sure that you book in advance as well because it sells out really quickly. And of course, if you have trouble booking or if you have any questions about the experience before you actually go, feel free to reach out to us at any point. Our email is support@italiapass.com. Just send us a quick email. We're always happy to help and answer any questions you might have. Now, for all the exciting sights that you'll get to see during your stay in Rome. Of course, Rome has wonders to offer. No matter where you go, I'm sure you will be completely enchanted by the city. But I will, give you some tips and some pointers on the main highlights of the city and how to take advantage of your visit the best way possible. So, as you see here on the slide, the first one listed is the Colosseum, of course. Uh, Primo members get one free tour, one free guided tour of the Colosseum, which features exclusive access to the arena floor through the iconic Gladiators Gate. Viva members can get a discount. So even if you have a Viva fare, for example, we have several Colosseum tours to choose from. And of course, it is a must see. So again, as I mentioned for the dinner, make sure to book this in advance because it's incredibly popular, as you can imagine. So that would be my advice. That's for the Colosseum, but of course we have plenty of tours all around Rome. We offer guided tours of the Vatican, walking tours of the heart of the city. Usually, the walking tours include highlights such as the Spanish Steps, Piazza Navona, the Trevi Fountain, of course. So, if you are in Rome for at least 2 full days and you're interested in all of these three experiences, I would actually recommend checking out something that we call the Rome Tour Pass. It's a tour bundle that we offer, and it includes everything that I've just mentioned. It's usually a traveler favorite, we've noticed, and we do recommend having at least 2 full days because while you can visit the Colosseum, the Vatican, and do a walking tour within the same day, it's usually not recommended, even just for, the timings and logistics of the tours. But even if you're doing a self-guided tour, it's a lot. It may not sound like a lot, but these places are big, so we recommend spending at least a couple of days if you want to see everything that I was talking about. Regardless, if you choose one of our tours, know that our members get a discount for the first tour booking. The discount for Primo members is $100, and it's applicable to any tour that you see on italiatours.com, with the single exception of transfers. For example, airport transfers or train station transfers. Those would not be included, but everything else is. So, as I mentioned, you can see the full catalog on italiatours.com, but as I mentioned before, of course, at this point, it goes without saying, if you have any questions, if you're not sure which one to choose or what to see during your time, please do send us an email. We have an Italy experience specialist team that's always happy to help. And yeah, if you have any questions, do reach out. My one piece of advice before you look into booking any of these is, as I was saying for the Coliseum, make sure to book these as soon as you know your dates. Just because, of course, as I was saying, these are highly, highly popular destinations. And while we do try our best to accommodate last minute bookings, of course, we cannot always guarantee that there will be availability. And we always hate to tell our travelers, oh, we're sorry, we can't organize this for you. So make sure as soon as you know exactly which days you'll be in Rome, make sure to take a look and get your reservations in. Um, that's it for the reservations. One last point for especially, I would say, the Vatican, and if you're planning on visiting any churches within the city, is the dress code. We often get questions. It's a very simple rule for churches all around, especially the major ones, but really I would say it goes for most of them, is you can wear anything that you'd like as long as it covers shoulders and knees. That goes for any gender, any age. It's especially true for the Vatican. They really enforce it there, but as I said, it's something that I've experienced in most holy places, let's say. And they also do not allow large backpacks and strollers within the Vatican and the Colosseum specifically. So something smaller is usually recommended, let's say a crossbody bag or something of that like. But yeah, other than that, just make sure what you wear is comfortable. And since now it's hot, possibly something that's a light material, but that's it. And now I'll hand it back to Shelley for some local tips.
Okay, so last but not least, wrapping up the informational part of our webinar. These are a couple of my favorite tips that I always tell people when they're coming to visit. The first is, and especially now when it's really hot in Rome, you can use these local water fountains called Nazzoni to fill your water bottles. Nazzone means big nose, and that's kind of the nickname for these fountains because of the spigot shape. As you can see from the photo, water comes out continuously. You don't need to turn these on and off. They're constantly running, and they draw water from a deep underground spring, so it comes out pretty cold also, really nice fresh water. And you can just refill your water bottle with these rather than having to buy plastic bottles and spend a lot of money downtown. An extra local trick, if you don't have a bottle and you don't want to cup your hands under the water, if you put your thumb into the bottom of the spigot and you block the flow of the water, it will have a backflow, and there's a little tiny hole in the spigot. And what happens is it'll shoot a little tiny arch of water out, and people use that as a drinking fountain. So you can try that too. Romans do it all the time. The only thing I would caution you about is watch who's walking by, because if you do that and you're not ready to drink, it will shoot a really long spray and it might hit somebody. But they might like it because it's so hot right now. But in any case, that's a fun way to stay hydrated when you're going around downtown. In the email that I'm going to send you after, because I have the email since you registered, I'm going to send you an email with a link, and it's going to have in our community a list of resources. And in that list, you're going to find a smartphone app. I don't think you can download it when you're back home, but when you are in Italy, I believe your phone should be able to download this app. And it's the local water utility, and it has an interactive map that shows where thousands of these fountains are throughout the city. And so, well, thousands, I don't know, but at least multiple hundreds all over the place. And you can find your next refill that way. Last but not least, have an aperitivo. So you may know about this tradition in Italy around 6 or 6:30 in the evening. It's kind of a pre-dinner snack and drink. In the photo, you see the drink is an Aperol Spritz. It's a very low alcohol content pre-dinner drink, but you don't have to have a drink with alcohol in it. It's just you could get a Coca-Cola, or even there's a local Roman drink that's with no alcohol called a Crodino. It's kind of a bitter taste. That's like the tradition with these drinks. Even Aperol is a little bitter. And it's just a fun tradition to get some pre-dinner drinks, to open your aperitivo, open your stomach for dinner. The photo that you see there is at Mecanismo. That is a place in Trastevere that I like for aperitivo because you get that really abundant snack board. You don't get to choose the snacks individually, the chef just chooses them, but that's a pretty good deal for the fact that you're right downtown and it's 13 euros per person. It includes your drink and your snacks, but you could even go to any coffee bar around this time in the evening, and you could ask for like a glass of prosecco or a crodino, and they'll maybe give you some little snacks like pizzette, like little small round pizzas, or even just potato chips and peanuts. But it's kind of a fun local tradition to try. All right, so that wraps up the informational part of our webinar. So like I said, I'll send you an email with links to the resources. It's going to have a recap of the Q&A that we're about to host, and it will also have a link to a recording of this webinar. So if you joined late or if we spoke too fast, you want to review it, you can go to our YouTube channel and you'll find it there. So now I will stop screen sharing and we will go directly into the Q&A. So if you click the three dots that say more on the bottom of your screen and you find the Q&A box, you are more than welcome to type in questions for us. We're here for up to the next 15 minutes to answer your questions live. Anything that you might be wondering prior to leaving for Rome, traveling in Italy, we can answer those live right now. Or if no one has any questions, then I would also welcome you to come on over. If you think of something later, you can come over to the community and you see that web address right on the screen, community.italiapass.com, and I am there to answer your questions. So nobody, you guys are a little shy, so nobody's asking questions, which is perfectly fine. Maybe we covered everything that you wanted to know. So if there aren't any questions, we will go ahead and close the webinar and wish you a wonderful trip in Rome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us, everyone, and have a wonderful trip.